Hey everybody, and welcome to the fourth Levitum Knot. This edition's Knot is going to be hosted by Raj. Raj is a certified dive master. I'm
No,
fortunate to have him here.
certified advanced diver. So we don't want to get that wrong. If anybody
Oh boy, okay. Certified advanced dive master. And
advanced diver,
advanced diver, okay. So,
guru, big guy, somewhere.
there. So Raj, I'll let you take it away.
All right, thanks, Avi. So yeah, I thought this is more of a introduction to diving. I know a lot of you are interested in learning more about diving, and so I put together something a little less formal, even though it's a presentation. So it doesn't go too deep into everything behind diving, but hopefully you'll kind of get acquainted and get interested. Um, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. I'm going to share my screen. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it fine.
Okay. In full screen mode?
Not yet.
No, I don't think the full screen mode works on Google Screen Share.
Okay, that's fine. So let me just make it full screen here then. Yes, that should hopefully help. All right, so yeah, so this is an introduction to recreational diving, and thanks to RV, there's a nice little collage right here. So basically, the way it all began was, I couldn't swim until I was maybe 32, 33, something like that. I pretty much almost improved or built on my swimming only after I started diving. But we used to go to all these beach places, and we used to see all these people do exciting things, go out swimming deep, snorkel, go diving. My wife, who you can see in all of these photos, she's a very good swimmer, and so she kind of kept pushing me, and I saw a few YouTube videos on swimming, and I went to the pool and I practiced, and finally one of the days I was sort of ready to go out swimming a bit. So we'd gone to Philippines, and there was this dive shop just outside our resort. So we roll out of bed and roll into the dive shop, and so we kind of sauntered in there, and we said we'd like to go diving, and they said, okay, you can start with Discover Diving. So they kind of take you out and show you how it feels and stuff like that. And we thought that's it. We'll do one dive, and we're done with diving, right? We'd be pretty happy to see things, and then we're done. But we went diving, and then we came back, and we were like, okay, this doesn't feel like it now. So they talked to us about options in terms of getting certified. So we did our what's called a basic open water certification, and then that has certain restrictions in where and what you can dive with. So we went back and did an advanced dive course. We also did a specialty, which I'll talk about. So there we were, and then now I think I'm about 60 dives in. Haven't dived in the last year, but pretty much every 2-3 months we go out somewhere and do 3 or 4 dives and come back. So yeah, it's pretty catching once you're in the water. Once you do the Discover Scuba, you really want to go diving again and again. So yeah, there's a history nut in all of us. So it's my duty to cater to that. I can see a few people grinning, even though I'm not looking at your videos. So there's a really good site, destination-scuba.com/ you can see the link below, history of scuba diving. It has a short timeline, and then it has a detailed timeline, and it's very, very interesting read. I don't think there's anything very interesting in Wikipedia or elsewhere, so this site is something that really talks about. But you can sort of see it, the history kind of apparently goes back pretty long. way back to 500 BC. A Greek soldier apparently dived in and stayed underwater for hours. So he used a hollow reed. So that's similar to sort of snorkeling in some ways, but was underwater, deep and not sort of on the surface. Um, there have obviously been reports of diving for pearls, diving in China during the Ming Dynasty. So they'd use a curved pipe, which is again similar to using a hollow reed. So in all of these, they'd kind of get air from the surface, and then they'd kind of stay underwater, breathing, doing stuff. Um, in the 1500s, I think where modern diving kind of started. Um, People started diving with an inverted bell. So you kind of have a bell, and there's air trapped inside, and then they put a kind of a platform underneath. They tape it, put lead so that it stays upright, and then they're inside, and they kind of go down and stay down until they breathe, until the air starts to get bad. So there's only so much air inside, and then they go back. They also sort of started connecting, a pipe with air being pumped manually from the surface. Um, and then in the 1700s onwards, there was people started diving with compressed air. If you're doing if you're getting air supplied from the surface, you have an unlimited supply of air. But if you're underwater and you're carrying your own air supply, it's extremely limited. So they figured out that if you compress it and send it down to people, then you can breathe for a little longer underwater. Um, so with compressed air, there are other issues that happen, and I have I'll just talk about it in a bit. But there were studies also that started to come out on things like decompression sickness and so on. In the 1800s, a couple of people invented the diving suit and the breathing apparatus. Something along the lines of what you see on the right side. This is sort of the ancient frogman that you see there. Most of diving, as you can imagine, was oriented towards a little bit commercial, but a lot towards military needs, right? So the 500 BC story apparently is that the Greek soldier dived underwater and using the hollow reed went around uh, cutting off the anchors of all of the enemy ships, so setting them loose. Similarly, a lot of stuff that we read in diving history originally would have been oriented towards military needs, right? Apparently, Napoleon, I can't remember where, but was reported to sort of have escaped his enemies by diving inside a diving bell or a barrel kind of thing and staying underwater for some time. In the 1908, the dive tables were created by John Scott Haldane. So these tables are sort of a computational table that allows us to plan our diving. It's become a little less relevant, but we do have to learn about it and learn how to use it in our courses. It sort of lets us know, plan our dives, how long we can stay, and how deep we can go, and how long we can stay, and if we're repeating a dive after that, how much time, depending on how much time we take, how deep can our second dive be, and so on. But this is a really important invention or discovery that happened because it made diving safer for us. 1940s, Jack Cousteau, who's now regarded as the father of recreational scuba diving, created like a rebreathing device that that actually went towards popularizing scuba diving. 1960s, some of the organizations like NOI and PADI got formed, and they're pretty much oriented towards recreational diving. So they started popularizing recreational diving. A lot of modern equipment that we still use now pretty much started appearing in the 70s, right? And if you want to know like how many new divers are certified every year, apparently there are like more than 500,000 new divers certified every year since the 90s. So this is a bit about the history of diving. Feel free to interrupt me and ask questions or anything. I probably don't have too many answers on the history. Um, so just to look at the organizations, there are three major organizations. There could be a few more, but these are the three major, of which PADI, the one that even I went and got certified with, is the largest. It's called Professional Association of Diving Instructors. You also have Scuba Schools International and NOI, which is the National Association of Underwater Instructors. Um, so if you're going to get certified, from what I hear, PADI is probably the most, you'll bump into a PADI dive school somewhere or the other, wherever you go. Uh, it's also it's also a little easier. They've kind of broken it down a little more, and um, they're a bit easier. From some of the guys that I've dived with who are from SSI certified or NOI certified, they've had some pretty challenging times during the certification. But on the other hand, they actually progress to being better divers much faster. That's just my personal observation, seeing some of those guys. So with a similar number of dives behind them, they were much better than I was. So uh, yeah, but I think if you want to start doing recreational diving, the chances that you'll kind of do it with PADI are probably high, and it's a good way of getting certified, and then opening out a lot of options in terms of diving. Okay, so this is sort of the interesting part now. So what I did was I split it out a little bit into what happens before you get into the water, and then when you're in the water, and then you get out, and so on. The first thing that
Yeah.
you,
Is
yeah,
there anything you could make the slides just a little larger? Like, I don't know, you could share your desktop and go full screen, or maybe just hide the ribbon and the lower part a bit. Might make it a bit easier.
let me do that, right? So this screen especially needs that. So, okay, I'm going to try and share the desktop, and guys, let me know if you see that in full screen. All right.
Yeah, now we're good.
Okay, great. So if you look at this picture, there's a lot of equipment, right? Um, from the top, you kind of see the hood, the mask, snorkel. They've kind of broken this down a lot. So they have the regulator, first stage, second stage. They've broken this down a lot, but pretty much what you have that you need at a minimum is the mask on the top. Um, a snorkel is kind of optional. Some people like to have it. I personally don't like um, going in with the snorkel. It does help you sort of, when you come to the surface, if things are rough, when you come back up or when you're going in, right, it helps you breathe. I mean, you don't have to sort of, keep your head out. You can use the snorkel and breathe while you're at the surface. But um, yeah, it's sort of a piece of equipment that is good for, obviously you need it for, excuse me, when you're snorkeling, but when you're diving, you don't use it other than when you're on the surface. So one less piece of thing to carry for me. I don't take it. A lot of people do take it. Um, the You'd wear a wetsuit, and you may or may not wear a wetsuit. It depends on you how much of cold you can tolerate and so on. You've got to remember that a water temperature of 20 degrees is probably almost freezing, because water takes heat away from your body much faster than air does. So, um, as you we typically dive in tropical waters anywhere between 28 to 30 degrees, and that's reasonably comfortable. We still use like a wetsuit that's like really thin, like 3 mm, 3.5 mm. The wetsuit also, helps a little bit with buoyancy, so that's an added benefit. But in tropical waters at 28 to 30 degrees, I guess it's, a lot of people also prefer to dive without a wetsuit. You could dive with or without, but as it goes down, you definitely start needing a wetsuit. The wetsuits start getting thicker, and then as you go diving in freezing water, you start wearing what's called a dry suit, so that there's no water entering in. as well. Um, the next piece of equipment is what's called a buoyancy control device. It's basically like a vest. It has various harnesses. You can connect the tank in. You clip it on. You can place to just put in your gauges and stuff like that. That's probably one of the most important pieces of device. You'd wear it. I mean, you'd have to go use that. What it does is it helps you control. You can put air into the vest. So as you go diving in, um, there's water. The pressure of water on you starts to increase. So in order to kind of stay afloat comfortably as you go in, and you're also wearing a weight belt, right? So that's another piece of equipment to help you descend. So in order to balance that out, you kind of fill a little bit of air from your tank into the buoyancy control device, and then you do the same when you're on the surface. You again fill up air into it so you can float comfortably. Um, there's the tank, of course. It has compressed air. It's usually, I think, 12 to 15 liters, something like that. And compressed air is, I think, somewhere at 180 to 200 psi. Uh, so basically, you have enough air that should last you for a dive. Um, and then at the feet, you kind of have your fins, right? So that's another important piece of equipment. It's interesting. Sometimes you kind of lose a fin when you dive, or I think there was a time where Rachna, my wife, she had to dive. We had borrowed equipment then, and she had really tiny fins because they couldn't find ones that fit her feet. And you really struggle because you really need proper fins underwater to swim, or when you're coming back up and so on. When you don't have, you almost feel naked. Yeah, it's like that. You need gauges. You need a depth gauge. You need a pressure gauge. So the pressure gauge tells you how much air you have left at any point in time, and the depth gauge kind of tells you how deep you are. You'd also, ideally need some kind of underwater watch, so you're kind of keeping track of how long you're staying at particular depths. But nowadays, what happens is we have dive computers that kind of record your depth, and they kind of keep track of how long you're staying and how much exposure you're getting to compressed air and so on. And uh, they have these various alarms if you're staying down too long, if you're coming up too fast. Um, but earlier it would all be about sort of diving with, you'd have to know the time. It's pretty important. Um, I think other than that, the whole bunch of accessories people would carry, flares, signaling devices, inflatable sort of things that you can release from underwater, so your boat could come and pick you up and so on. Knives, small knives, if you're diving and there's, especially if there's kelp or underwater plants and so on, and you're diving, and you could easily sort of get around your feet or wherever else, and you're stuck. So it's easier to just use a dive knife. And
Raj, what does this knife look like? Is it like a James Bond kind of knife, or what?
it actually looks pretty butch, man. It looks pretty butch. So it's not very big, but yeah, it's thick and wide. I don't have one, unfortunately. I can't. But,
Here I was imagining you carrying on a little fancy knife.
Usually the dive masters carry them, so we just kind of enjoy ourselves underwater, and if we get stuck or something, we just sort of signal for help, and somebody will come and cut you out. But yeah, they're quite butch. And remember that I carry all my dive equipment as not as check-in. So if I had to carry a knife, then I pretty much that would be down.
So do you get caught often and stuff like this, or is it more like a once in a while?
See, I think in tropical waters it's pretty rare. If at all you may get caught in some net or something, right? And somebody fishing or whatever. But in subtropical or cold water, there are these kelp gardens. I don't know if you've seen some underwater pictures of sort of these tall grass-like things, right? And
Mm.
so you kind of swim, I mean, it's fun. It's no fun swimming above them all the time because a lot of marine life would sort of be in and around. So you might go down a bit and, suddenly it sort of grab hold of your leg or something. So, uh, but you've seen it useful also, Aditya, for, if some of the fish get stuck in like a leftover of a net or something, right?
All right.
These guys would go and sort of free it out so it couldn't wait. So.
And have you ever had to have someone use a knife against, other wildlife, or I don't think wildlife, but fish or other marine life in the water?
No, no, never, never, ever. Uh, yeah, but yeah, no. Uh, I'll tell you what I've seen when I talk about animal attacks, but no, not, and yeah,
Never had
yeah,
to, never
yeah,
had to defend it against one of them with something like this.
yeah, no, no, no. I think if you had to defend yourself against, you're anyways at a disadvantage, right? So
Right,
you something more serious. So
right.
just going to show you a few pieces of equipment that I have. So what do I start with? Yeah, so this is my mask. Right? Basically, many of you would have gone snorkeling, right? Has everybody done snorkeling here? Has
Yep,
anybody?
I have. Yeah,
Me too.
Okay.
me too.
All right. So, anyways, this is the same as a snorkeling mask. Um, it's just it's nice to have your own personal mask. And, part of the reason, obviously, is like you like a mask. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the rented ones, but they're sort of almost all size, all shape types. And so I picked one that perfectly fits me, so I don't think too much about adjusting it. I just put it on. Um, Other thing is, so typically when you get into water, your glasses cross cut, right? So because of the chill in and out and so on. So the best thing to do usually is just to stick into the mask, stick in, and then you kind of wipe it out, right? So it's not nice to have your own mask, right? So it's all good. It's anyways going to saline water, so you should not get infected or anything. But yeah, it's nice to have your own mask. What we found works really well is baby shampoo. We've got this Johnson baby shampoo and put a couple of drops and that like that. Just rinse it and then it stays clear for the entire time.
And this is useful anywhere, right? I mean, this is a great tip. I mean, you're swimming just in a pool, right? And you don't want uh, your swimming goggles to fog up. This shampoo trick works.
Yeah. So you want to use a baby shampoo because it doesn't hurt your eyes. So that's just it. That's why baby shampoo. But yeah, it's there are anti-fogging agents, uh, but I don't think they work as well. The baby shampoo powders work 100%. Yeah, you can use it snorkeling, you can use it swimming. Um, so while I don't use the snorkel, I still have one in case I'm just going snorkeling after a dive or something. So this is how the snorkel is. So snorkels kind of come and it's a big snorkel, like I kind of move back, show you everything. But here's like the mouthpiece. Uh, So in the equipment as well, right? The one thing I forgot to tell you guys about is what's called a regulator. It comes in a device that we call octopus. So it's got like these tentacles. So it's got a regulator that goes into the gas tank behind, and then it's got like these four pipes, right? One pipe goes to a mouthpiece, the first thing, second regulator, which the air is compressed in the tank, right? So you can't breathe at that rate. So the mouthpiece actually, the diving one converts it to the same pressure as is whenever you're swimming out in water. Um, the There's also an alternate, same mouthpiece, but you can keep it on the side. So in case yours doesn't work, you can sort of switch. Alternately, somebody may run out of air and you have some air in the tank, so you might share that, do some sort of have a buddy sort of breathe with you, use your asset like the downhill. The other two, one of them goes to the buoyancy control device so that you can inflate it. And then the final one goes into sort of the pressure gauge. So it tells you how much air is left by pressure in the tank. Typically, we start at 180 to 100 percent. Then, when it comes to around say 100, depends on what your dive master thinks is safe and what depths you're at. If you're going really deep, we kind of inform him when it's 100. So the hand signals, I have a slide for that, but we kind of say it this way, so it's 100. And then we kind of say, okay, but he wants to look at you. And then when it goes to 50, you do like this. That's sort of like, I'm going to run out there. And then after that, you say 4 means 40, 3 means 30. Then hopefully you're after them. Um, so this has the mouthpiece has similar to the snorkel to kind of chew on this side. Then so at the top here, some snorkels that you get do not have this, but this one has got like valve here that allows air in to come in, but it does not allow water to come in. So it's even if it gets flooded, or if you want to go do some free diving and stuff, you can do that.
How does that work, Raj? How does it prevent the water?
It's got a valve inside. This is called it's called a dry snorkel though, right? The other ones are called the wet snorkel where water goes in.
So yeah, the only way I can show is that sound coming there.
Right. It's actually got a spring-loaded valve kind of mechanism in there.
Spring-loaded, but it's just a valve there.
Okay.
That kind of if water goes, it kind of closes up.
Okay.
So you've got to service it.
Yeah, in the cheaper one, the wet one, water goes in Aditya, but if you can sort of blow it out.
Yeah. No, I learned how to use the wet one. I guess I didn't know about these. So
yeah, it has an exhaust.
Learning how to blow out on a snorkel, and I'm like, hey, if I had this, why did I learn that?
Yeah, this has an exhaust valve as well, so you can see it on this side, right? So all the snorkels would have that. So water goes in, you can just spit it out. It comes out from the other side.
Yeah.
That's one way as well. So fins, many kinds of fins. There's one here, massive guy. There's one more here.
That's crazy. That's huge, right? I mean, that's like 2 feet or more.
And a side by side comparison.
Wow.
My fins really. So this is mine, the black one. Really heavy, guys. I almost don't need a weight belt because it's so heavy. This is much lighter, and so this is, the fin here is not as rigid. The fin for me is much more rigid. I think so. We went with our dive instructor to buy these, and this Scuba they call jet fins. That's the model. Apparently, very favored with all of these guys who've been diving for a while. So he saw these, he got excited and he bought it for me. I think a while before I became decent at using them. These fins are actually pretty decent. They're kind of long. They give you a little more power while you're swimming. These are good ones when you swim for the good diver. So many shapes and sizes. There are split fins. There are the fin technology. I think it's. I'm sure people who dive with specific things get used to them and like them. And maybe there are some technical reasons, but for us recreational divers, we get a fin that's comfortable. The kind of fins that you get in dive shops, usually for rental, they are sort of the closed foot fins. So you don't, you just wear the fin on and go diving. The ones that we have are open fins. So you can see at the back there's a strap here. And so, you've got to wear something. So these are like booties that you wear. Basically boots. This is for my wife. Wear that one. I bought a much smaller size. These fins were on like a major offer, and this was only fin left. So it's like a really, really small size. It wasn't my size in the sense that I can wear booties and that. So I kind of bought these neoprene socks. actually tried diving without them a couple of times. I scraped I didn't have any skin left, and no skin and salt water, not a very good combination. Couple of other pieces of equipment that I have with me to make it still working. This is a dive computer. It used to be nice, and it used to
Can
be,
you bring that closer, Raj?
yeah. Okay. I'll receive it turns on. It's run out of juice now. Oh, it hasn't. That's very good. Not bad. So I haven't changed batteries in these for like 3 years now. Uh, you can sort of see them. Currently, it's showing me the temperature. It's also showing me. I've basically set myself up for normal air and showing me the time. So, um, but as soon as it hits water, it starts to get into a different mode where it when it starts showing your depth, it starts showing how long you're there and how much time you can stay at that depth before it starts to get dangerous and so on. Um, really, 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 even so. Typically, what happens when you're doing recreational diving, especially in Asia, right? So, maybe if you go to a place which is run by North American or even Australian, it's likely that they'll give you a dive computer because they want to make sure that everybody has a dive computer when you're diving. But here, pretty much only the dive master would have, the guy who's leading the dive would have the dive computer. The others don't have, fine, and he kind of keep track. But if you're going for some serious diving or going diving often, it's good to buy this. This one I bought in Dubai. It cost me 17, 18,000 there. Um, you get really fancy ones. You get ones where you can connect your air supply into them. So they become even more precise. And they can also measure the pressure and all that. So you just have one place to look at. Those cost like 50 grand a month. The basic ones start at 10, 12 grand. They work pretty well. But I'm also nitrox certified, so that's a gas mixture. I'll just talk about it a bit. So I needed that computer that could help me switch between modes and stuff like that. Mm, it's actually a watch. It came nicely strapped. Somebody slept on it in the boat, and the strap came off. So I use like a clip like this and clip it on and clip it on to my vest. Um, Last thing, so when I go diving, I'd like to take underwater photos. And uh, so here's sort of the place. This can go down to about, I think, 52 meters or so. I haven't gone down that far, but I did this will survive. I have a red filter actually, and because the water takes away, eats up all the red, uh, and there's a really really horrible camera inside. So it's worse than most of our normal digital cameras. If you The guys who do serious underwater photography, there's a lot of equipment they carry. So they need to carry scopes, they need to carry the case itself is great, the cameras are bigger, cameras are better. Uh, I think the whole different session is needed for underwater photography. It's really, really interesting. It's founded on sort of the same theories that are out of water, but there are a lot of different factors that water adds to all of this. So things like lighting, things like diffusion, particle diffusion, uh, and how much light passes through, how much can uh, uh, colors. So the colors kind of get skewed towards blue. Usually. Uh, you see a lot of them blue. So there are different ways of managing that. That's what. Yeah. So this is the equipment section. Apart from this, basically the rain belts, the wetsuits, and stuff like that, we usually just throw under. So, pretty much all of my equipment, everything comes inside a bag like this. So I just take it with me to a dive site, and then And then I have got one of those nylon type bags. So I don't take this one onto the boat. This is what goes onto the boat. And, salt water is pretty corrosive, so after every dive, every day that we dive, we have to wash down all our equipment with fresh water. And sort of seeing stuff just corrode away and all that. So I think we're going to get back to. Can you guys see my screen again?
Yeah, Raj.
Okay, so before you get into the water, so even if you're doing what's called a discover diving, which is it's pretty much a managed dive session. There are a few things that you learn, a few things you got to learn. So breathing seems trivial, but you've got to breathe in and out with your mouth, right? Your nose is pretty much covered by the mask, so it doesn't play any role in terms of breathing. So you've got to get comfortable where you're not breathing through your nose, you're breathing through your mouth. Also, the slower you breathe, the longer your air lasts. Right? So you breathe, you kind of breathe slowly in and out. Depending on how stressed out or frightened or whatever else you are, nervous or whatever, you might end up breathing faster than typically you'll run out of air faster. Or if you're doing a lot of activity, right, like flipping your fins a lot, flashing around, you'll end up breathing faster. So you've got to just get used to sort of breathing slow. But for your first dive, it doesn't matter. It just helps you stay longer to breathe slow. So just on air, right? Some theory behind this, right? So the air is compressed, right? And then the compressed air is served to you through the mouthpiece, the regulator at your mouth, at the same pressure level you are at. So underwater, on the surface, let's say the pressure is 1 atmosphere, right? For every 10 meters of water, it doubles. So if you go 10 meters, it's 2 atmospheres. If you go 20 meters, it's 4 atmospheres, and so on. So your the pressure of the air gets further compressed, right? Uh, but our bodies are sort of hard cases, so our bodies don't get compressed, but all our air going in and out of us is now sort of at double the pressure or 4 times the pressure. So you end up the deeper you are, the faster your air will run out, pretty much, right? So because the same volume of air actually contains more air, so you've got to and I think something like 80% of that air uh, is not used at all, really. Right? So we breathe it in, we process about 20% of it, and we breathe it out. Right? We actually, because we're living on the surface, right? It kind of makes us feel, how wasteful we are, but we can't do anything about it. Because on the surface, we can afford to do that, but underwater, we end up wasting a lot of oxygen that's there, but there isn't much you can do. So just breathing slowly and deeply allows you to keep in and process as much air as possible. The next thing that you need to learn is equalization. So I think it's not very dissimilar to what happens when you're descending in a flight. So you're coming from a high altitude where the pressure is lower to a low altitude, the pressure is more. So the air starts to get compressed, right? So it's like sort of a vacuum or suction getting created in the air spaces inside, and the head starts to ache and so on. So you've got to sort of what we do is either swallow if you can with the mouthpiece in your mouth and so on. I find that difficult. That's for example, does that all the time. So what we do is like we kind of pinch your nose and sort of breathe out that way, and that will clear all the airspaces. You've got to pretty much equalize every 2 meters underwater. So when you're coming from, let's say, 20,000 feet, or 30,000 feet down to 0 feet ground level, the pressure difference is not even as much as going from surface to 2 meters underwater. So pretty much every 2 meters, if not less, you kind of equalize as you're descending. When you ascend, as you come up, the air expands through all your air spaces. It just comes out. So there's no, typically you don't need to do too much. You need to, your mask water might get into your mask, so you'll be taught how to do mask clearance, which is, sort of just press the top of the mask and open out the bottom a little and breathe out through your nose. So water gets pushed out. There's also, if your mask gets foggy underwater, what do you do, right? So we actually open the top of the mask, let some water in.
Hey Raj,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is others are experiencing this, but for like I think a minute or two for me, your audio is coming in quite choppy. Anybody else experiencing that?
Yeah, even I think we did the same thing as we felt the same thing as well.
Okay, so
I somehow feel that the closer you are to the
Microphone.
computer, we can hear you better.
okay, is this better now?
Yeah, clearer, much clearer.
Okay, sorry, I'm not sure where I went off. Um,
No, no worries. Just quick time check as well, Raj. We're at about 9:45.
yeah, I just saw the time sometime back. So let's see. There's regulator changing. You've got to change your learn how to remove your regulator from your mouth underwater, and then put in an alternate regulator in. So it's pretty much it's a little daunting, but you just put it in your mouth and you blow out, and water goes out, and you can start breathing. Yeah, hand signals underwater, so you can't speak, obviously. I think a couple of things there. So, when they ask you, so you can see the okay signal, right? So when they kind of, when they kind of look at you and they kind of do okay, or how are you, or whatever, right? So you kind of do okay. If you're feeling fine, you're happy, and you kind of say, yeah, thumbs up, it basically means I want to go back up. So go back up is thumbs up, go down is thumbs down. So there are a bunch of signals that you'd learn, signs that will help you, kind of show either that you're doing all right or that you're, you need attention.
Yeah, I think one thing I just want to point out there, Raj, especially for me, which is new, is when you look at those hand signals, right? The signal saying that I've had enough, I want to leave, is actually a thumbs up signal.
Yeah.
And you're used to sort of, like when we're up here in land, we're used to saying, how are things? And you say, oh yeah, thumbs up, right? But if you notice the thumbs up there means actually I want to go back up. And remember that underwater you can't speak to each other, right? So it's only sign language. So when you actually do the thumbs up, you're telling someone that things aren't good, I want to go back up. So it's sort of almost opposite of what you would do in the land.
Yeah. Similarly, there are signals for hand signals for marine animals as well. I mean, it's basically kind of if I grab your attention, I see a shark, for example, then, I kind of put my hand up above my head like a shark sign, and I can point and show you where it is. So, if you're going down to see certain kinds of marine life and we see something exotic like a turtle or whatever else, we kind of we're able to point, you're able to grab your attention and point you towards that and tell you what it is, so you know what to look for.
I think that the signal for shark isn't too prominent, right? You would think there'd be more of a prominent danger signal there.
So I think this is sort of the difference that like regular divers have versus non, is that sharks aren't particularly dangerous. They, obviously the great whites are, but most reef sharks that we come across, and we, as divers, we pretty much want to go diving. If you talk to any of the dive schools, and they'll tell you very proudly like there are sharks there, right? And that's sort of to tell you that that's a place that we want to go to. And pretty much after a dive, the biggest crib is we didn't see any sharks. So, so, so shark is just like any other animal. There are, there are other animals that could be dangerous in other ways, like jellyfish, for example, right? Probably are more dangerous than sharks because you may not notice them and you might sort of get in their way and get some severe poisoning. So, um,
Quick
quick,
question here.
yeah.
Yeah, so the jellyfish are considered like really poisonous, right? Are all of them considered poisonous?
No, no, no. There's actually a lake, sorry, a lagoon in Palau, Palau,
Okay.
which is full of jellyfish. You dive through jellyfish, and that's not poisonous. So not all forms of jellyfish are poisonous.
Okay.
There's just a few of them that are really really poisonous.
And the wetsuit doesn't help?
See, you'll have a lot of exposed portions still, like parts around your face.
Yeah.
So when you're swimming, right, like for example, there's this one kind of plankton which stings. The stinging plankton.
Mm-hmm.
So your body is fine if you're wearing a wetsuit, but your face, right, suddenly starts itching because you're kind of swimming through it. So also sometimes we wear wetsuits called shorties, which are not fully, they don't go all the way. They're like short pants, right? So they just go up to above your knee. So your hands will be exposed again. Oftentimes the shorties also have only half sleeves. Um, so there are a lot of parts of your body that are exposed.
Okay.
But generally we don't encounter these jellyfish that often, right? So um, and especially the poisonous ones. Again, it's sort of like we have to get into their territory for us to
Yeah.
get into trouble.
Okay.
Uh, Quick look, getting into the water, you're wearing all your fins, mask, etc. So typically four ways to get in. I'm not going to get too deep into this, but just, sort of, you can sort of wade into the water. You can sit and then turn around, depending on the kind of boat you're in or, from where you're diving. The two of these that are interesting are giant stride and back roll. So giant stride is the one on the right. So you see the guys, with his legs split. You got to hold your mask and your regulator so that when you fall in the water, it doesn't get knocked off. In Dubai, we once had to jump off a dough, DHOW dough, and I was like almost like 6 feet above water. So you're pretty much grabbing the rail, and you kind of put your leg out, one leg out, and then jump. Uh, I mean, these practices are meant so that it doesn't knock off your equipment, right? So, and then the back roll is the one that you see on the left bottom. You kind of roll out on your back and get into water. That's pretty nice. The very first time we went, we actually did that, and there were two advanced divers in front of us, and they first did that. They did the back roll, and they didn't come back up, and then we got really really scared. But when we did it, it was nice. The reason those guys didn't come back up was they were sort of going in a high current area, and they were doing what's called a negative descent. So they get into the water and just go diving down. Normally we get in, we come back up, we check everybody's around, and then we all go down together. In their case, they just did a back roll, went straight down. So kind of scared us a bit initially, but pretty much back roll is our preferred means of getting into the water, at least for the two of us. When you're in the water, it's pretty much as advertised. All the photos you see are photos that I've
Hey Raj, I
had.
just have a funny story from the back. If you go back to the previous slide.
Did you hit yourself, Avi, while going back?
No, I just want to say, just in the previous slide, right? The one with the where the guy sort of does a backflip to go into the water. I
Yeah,
remember when we had gone for the dive in Netrani,
yeah.
one of the other boats, okay, there's this really fat guy, okay, who's sitting there, the first time diver. He's all
Oh,
loaded up with all the equipment, and there were four people all around him because it's quite heavy, right? Overall, once he's loaded with the tank, four people trying to get him to topple over into the water. And then all of a sudden, there's someone in the group who shouts, Ganesha immersion. Everyone totally cracks up. It's hilarious.
yeah. So corals. These are all photos I've taken with my really bad equipment. Um, but you can sort of see, like pretty much what you see on TV is what you'd see underwater, especially in the good locations. the little things. So we like to look for, the ones on the top left, the bottom right corner. They are they're called nudies, nudie branch, nudies. They're some form of like a snail kind of thing, but they're always very colorful, very pretty. They're very small. They're like 1-2 centimeters small, but it's something that we look out for, and then we try and get shots of. The one in the center, the colorful fish, is a juvenile angelfish. So you can see it's like blue with stripes, and then it completely changes when it grows big. So there's like starfish, uh, there's like lobsters and so on. And then the big or exotic things, right? So yeah, there's a shark left bottom corner. That's a photo I took. I actually went trying to get closer to the shark, and the shark started, was swimming away basically. So that was about as close as I could get to take that photo. Right side, the even meaner looking bugger is like a giant barracuda. Right? So they look like they look pretty mean. Left corner is blue spotted ray. That was a night dive. So you can see a lot of flash and some discoloration in the left bottom corner, but that was during we went for a couple of night dives, so it's really nice. There are different things that come to life underwater in the night and so on. Lionfish on the right corner. This guy looks a little cutish from the front, but can be a little bit poisonous. So pretty much when you're underwater, you don't want to touch anything, right? Even if you need to touch a coral, you don't want to touch a coral, even you don't want to destroy it. But if you had to take support, for example, right, there's a big current and you need to hold on to something, you just want to fan with your hand so that if there's anything, it kind of swims off, and then you put your hand. Murray eels, a lot of them. Netrani has tons of these. And then there's a batfish on the top. That's from Pondicherry. That guy was pretty much swimming straight for me, right? In that pose, you can see, right? Like, um, so I just clicked a photo of him. He's posing. There was a batfish. They are kind of yellow and black striped, and I don't know if you noticed the fin that I had earlier. My wife's fin is yellow and black, and in Netrani, this batfish, saw that fin and thought it was another batfish, or was just attracted to it because of similar color, and it just kept swimming behind the fin the entire dive. There's this one lone batfish, it just kept swimming the entire dive. It was right behind that fin. Uh, a lot of schools of fish, tuna, trevally, barracudas. There's the squirrel fish in the center. So you'll see a lot of these schools of fish, and if you try to go in between them, they'll kind of swim around you, like create this tunnel. So sort of a lot of fun. I think I talked about few of the danger, but there's, if you don't equalize, you can kind of have this pressure acclimatization issues, and your head will sort of start hurting and so on. You would, I mean, it's kind of okay. All you need to do is kind of go back up, couple of meters, and then start equalizing and come back down. As you go up, the air expands, and it should all be fine. You might get a really bad headache too at times. But if you have a cold, don't go diving, because if your air spaces are blocked, your nose is blocked or throat blocked, you will not be able to equalize. If you take a anti-cold tablet, it might temporarily arrest that, but if the cold comes back when you're underwater, you're screwed. So, pretty much that's one. If you're having cold or breathing troubles, you should not go diving that day. Decompression sickness is because, as you go down, the air in your cylinders is compressed, and then what gets served to you in the mouth is also pressurized depending on how deep you are. And uh, as you come back up, this air bubbles start to expand, and then the nitrogen within that sort of expands out as well. And it might expand. If it expands too fast, it'll kind of stay in your bloodstream and start to block your blood vessels, and pretty much it's that. I've never seen it happen. Recreational diving, rarely it happens unless we don't go that deep for one, and the tolerance levels are kept so tight that if by chance you go outside of them, you might still be okay. But the deeper you go, the more dangerous it is, right? So when you go down 40 meters or 60 meters and then you come back up, you've got to come back very slowly. Nitrogen narcosis, yeah, it's pretty much like getting high. So there's more nitrogen in your body. Usually it happens at, when you're up beyond 20 meters, but for some people it might happen earlier. So it's not happened to any of us, but you sort of have this lightheaded feeling, or you might start feeling high, you might start feeling happy, you might start feeling sad, whatever you feel when you're high, right? Obviously, the danger is that you might, in your happiness, you might pull out your mask, or you might do something silly. So again, usually you just come back up to a depth where you don't feel that. Oxygen toxicity. If you're breathing a mixture that's other than pure air, if you're taking a mixture that's just oxygen, right? So I guess partly the reason a lot of these troubles like decompression, sickness, nitrogen narcosis is because of nitrogen, right? So why don't we just take like pure oxygen and go down, right? And the reason is once oxygen's partial pressure in the gas mixture goes above, I think 1.6. So pretty much we take full oxygen. I don't think you can even go like 5 meters down. It becomes so toxic that it might arrest your central nervous system and basically you get paralyzed. So we have certain gas mixtures that have a little more oxygen. It allows us to stay longer, but it also restricts the depth. Running out of air. So if you don't breathe, if you keep breathing fast, you run out of air. Excuse me. And I'm one of those culprits. Pretty much in my first 20 dives, every dive I ran out of air, right? And then my wife is my buddy underwater, so I'd kind of grab hold of her and take her alternate and breathe her air. So women typically breathe lesser air underwater, smaller lungs, blah blah blah, maybe more. So yeah, that's true. They actually breathe less air, relatively. And she's also a good swimmer, more comfortable. So invariably, I'd be out of air, she'd have air, and then I'd kind of grab her and take the alternate and take out mine, and then we go up back together. So it's I guess it's a little. You can say it's a little romantic if your buddy is sort of your girlfriend or whatever, but you can pretty much annoy everybody because they could have probably stayed longer and enjoyed being underwater. So apart from being a bad thing for you, your group gets pretty pissed at you when you run out there quickly. Animals poison. So Aditya, the only time I've seen so the poisonous animals typically jellyfish, lionfish, the one that you saw. There's scorpionfish, which basically there's frogfish. So there are a few of them that are kind of poisonous. In terms of animal attacks, right? There's one kind of fish. It's called a triggerfish. Okay, and the bigger variety of them are called Titan triggerfish, and then they are nesting, right? So they actually, they don't nest somewhere hidden. They nest out in the open water, in a sandy area, and so you'll see them from afar, and that this is Titan triggerfish. So you can keep your space; they won't do anything. You go to within, say, 5 or 10 meters of them, they will attack you. They come like charging. They come like a bullet. So you've seen that happen, and it's like once these divers get more experience, not us, but our dive master, for example, he wanted to show us. So he went a little closer, right, and it came like shooting at him. And so basically, what you do typically is you kind of hold out your fin, right? You hold out your leg, so they kind of bite your fin or whatever. Took a pretty solid chunk of the fin, right? You see the fins are pretty strong, right? And that fish is not that big either. It took a pretty good chunk out of that fin. So that's probably the only time I've seen some animal attack, and pretty much we moved out of that 10-meter radius, and it was fine. It just went back to doing whatever it was doing, guarding its nest.
Interesting.
So you're actually saying it took a part of your fin away, or
a small chunk, small, like let's say like a point, like a quarter centimeter by quarter centimeter kind of thing.
But does it? That means it has jaws so strong. I assume the fin is of a decently thick.
Yeah, fins are like really tough. Yeah, it's pretty strong. So if it bites you, you'll get a nice big bite. I mean, it's like say like a the fish is very uh, it's big. It's not a huge fish. It's probably like 1 feet by 1 feet kind of thing. So it's 1 feet by half a feet, whatever, right? So it's not a huge fish. It's got really powerful jaws, as you say. Mouth is not too big, thankfully, um, but and it only attacks when you go close to its nesting area.
Hmm.
It's like getting bitten by a dog. If you go too close to a moray eel, too close meaning, there are guys who go and try to pet moray eels, right? There are moray eels in certain parts of the world. There are cases where they like to be petted. They look like doggies with their heads out of this thing. When they come out, they look like a big snake, but otherwise they look like a dog. So they're pretty cute looking, whatever. So sometimes people want to go and they look very docile. So people want to go and pet them. Usually when you go close, they're really, really nervous and they kind of get away, right? But if they can't, then they have this bite that can be like a dog's bite. But I've again never seen it happen, and usually for anybody that's happened to, is likely they really, really pushed it. They kind of went and tried to pet the fish.
Invaded privacy.
Yeah, exactly, right. I mean, it's a wild animal, so
Yeah.
it actually allows you, like when I go take photographs, I'm almost like 6, 8 inches away from it, right? Uh, for a couple of seconds, it's while it's kind of figuring out, I take the photo and then I move back. If I don't move back and I'm taking time, it kind of goes back and it comes out through another part of the crevice where it's hiding, right? And then it kind of goes away. So yeah, unless they're cornered, uh, or unless you inadvertently touch a poisonous creature or whatever, uh, you know, there are hardly any shark or any other kind of attacks. Usually, most of them are human generated. Like in the Caribbean, there's this place where divers would go. Like I said, right? Everybody wants to see sharks. So you go down, you may see a shark, you may not see a shark. So one day, these guys had a bright idea that they'll take some meat along with them and stuff. So they started taking, one or two sharks came, saw, they got interested, so they started taking the meat. For a few years, it was great. A lot of people would go down, they were guaranteed to see sharks. So they were made to kind of sit around, and then the sharks would come, and then they would kind of swim around. The sharks would swim around you, and they would go, the guy would hold out meat, it would grab it, and go back, right? They're shy creatures, they were like pretty happy doing that. And then now, these sharks have kind of gotten really aggressive, right? I mean, why aggressive? Because their expectations have been set that when you come down, you're going to get food. So when you go down, they no longer come shyly and take the meat and go away, right? They come and they start, as soon as you're down, they come and they see who's got the meat, and they like trying to grab at it, right? Uh, so they become really aggressive, not necessarily attacking, wanting to attack you, but that's their expectation. So a lot of times, many of these incidents, or any sort of instances of animal attacks or whatever, are almost entirely human driven. Just a few other things. How deep can you go? So you can go 12 meters if you've done a discover dive. You're doing so in a discover scuba dive. Basically, your instructor or dive master will take you down. They'll pretty much be controlling everything that you'll only have to breathe and equalize and stuff. They'll actually be taking you around. They'll grab hold of your BCD, they'll fill in air, they'll remove air as you ascend so that you don't come up too fast, blah, blah. They take care of everything. All you do is sort of, breathe nice and slow, equalize so you're happy. And that's pretty much the first dive that you do. Then you certify, and in PADI, if you do open water, you can go up to 18 meters. And then everybody kind of tells you these stories of seeing shark at 30 meters, 40 meters, blah, blah, blah. So then, you get interested, and then you do an advanced dive. You become an advanced diver, and then after that is, pretty much professional or technical divers tend to sort of go beyond that. Um, Warm versus cold water, I think we talked about. Salt versus plain water. There's some adjustments you make for plain water. Typically the weight, right? So in salt water, you're more buoyant, so you carry more weight, but in plain water, you probably carry less weight. Uh, Altitude, so altitude diving, again, because the pressure changes, there are certain restrictions, and immediately after a dive you cannot go flying back. So if you do one dive in that day, I think you've got to wait like 16 hours. If you do two dives, you've got to wait 24 hours. So you can't fly, you can't say, okay, I'm going to fly down to XYZ place, do a dive and come back the same day, right? Uh, you know that's dangerous again because of bends and so on. I think the best part is after a dive, you kind of log your dives into dive trip logging. Uh, you pretty much everybody who's a diver, invariably tends to have a lot of stories of great fun, their experiences, what they saw, what they didn't see, and whatever else. So there's a lot of fun. They like to hang out. They like to have a few drinks. They like to chat. And, uh, yeah, it's a really nice community. If you're going out on your own to some exotic place and you're going for diving and stuff, you can be sure that you'll have a few people to hang out with, a lot of fun people to hang out with. Not going to go through this in detail. I think you can look at the PADI site, but you start at sort of a discover scuba diving. You go into open water. You can go up to 18 meters. Adventure diver, basically you do specialties: deep dive, reg dive. So deep dive is like going beyond 30, going to 30 meters. You can go up to 40 max. Rec diving, so you dive wreck. So we've done a lot of those, right? You can do specialties in them, but you could also just do them either as a part of your course. You have to do, as a part of your advanced course, you've got to do 5 specialties. So we did deep diving, wreck diving, underwater photography. Navigation is compulsory, so we did navigation, and there was one other thing, I think, deep diving, can't remember now. And then after you do advanced open water, rescue diver is just a step, right? Pretty much recreationally, the master scuba diver is the highest level you can be as a recreational diver. The black ones, dive master, open water, specialty instructor, and so on, those are all sort of almost professional level courses. So you can become a diving professional once you've done all that. If you want to do stuff like, you're in oil and gas and you're doing diving for an oil and gas company, things like that, then that's again a whole new level. So that's like technical diving. It's very different. Do you need to know how to swim? Really, for Discover Scuba, you don't need to. If you're doing a basic or advanced test, you need to be able to float for 10 minutes, and you need to be able to do a 200-meter swim test. You can also do a 400-meter with snorkel and mask, so whichever you prefer. But you've got to be able to do these in order to sort of clear the basic. They don't take a swimming test in advance. You've got to clear it in basic. If you want to become like a dive master and up, the professional levels, that requires some serious skills, right? So there's this lady who was kind of doing that with us, and she's taking a long, long time. But even so, it takes at least like a couple of months to go to a dive master. So one of the skills they need to do, and she failed this a few times until she kind of got through, is you got to float for, I think, 17 minutes with your hands above your head. Your head out of the water, your hands above, hands straight up, and you're kind of pedaling and floating. So, and then you got to do those 400-meter swims in with certain times, right? In a certain time. In our normal basic, we don't have any time limit. You can take as much time as you want. So, it's probably my last slide. There are some new. There's not so much new stuff, but advanced stuff. So there's gas mixes. So I talked about nitrox, right? So where you add a little more oxygen percentage, so you can stay a little longer at a certain depth underwater, because the chance of nitrogen, or you reduce the nitrogen concentration in your body. But as you go deeper, oxygen gets toxic, right? So if you want to dive deeper than that, what these guys figured out is they need to reduce nitrogen, right? But they need to keep oxygen at 21% or whatever. They don't want to increase the concentration of oxygen. So what do, right? So they started doing something like a trimix, where they mix in helium, or an inert gas that's so small that it won't create any issues. So yeah, people have done all sorts of things, or they'll carry multiple gas tanks with different concentrations of different kinds of gases, so you can breathe different gases at different depths that are safe, and then come back. So These are for guys who really want to go like 50, 60, 70, 80, meters underwater. Um, Rebreathers. So these are, you can see the guy below. Guy above is wearing a side mount. The guy below is wearing a rebreather. You can see absolutely no bubbles in the guy below, right? So it's actually, and the gas tank's much smaller. It's just a small backpack. Basically, the carbon dioxide that you breathe out gets recycled and back into oxygen. And rebreathers actually came out even before compressed oxygen, right? So if you look at the history, they kind of came out a long time back. But getting a proper rebreather kind of took a really long time. And also, they are much more stealthy. So there's no bubbles, right? So people in the surface can't see you. So militaries of the world were also very much against sort of allowing rebreathers. So they kind of captured all the patents, and they wanted to ensure that nobody kind of uses rebreathers, especially for non-commercial purposes. Uh, but and then side mounts. So Arvi, I think you and I, when we went, we dived with the tank behind our back, right?
Yeah.
The biggest trend now is mounting the tank on the side. Um, and so I don't think we've ever faced it in Netrani, but I've faced it in a couple of other cases where we've gone diving and you're kind of going through a cavern, or like two rocks that are touching each other, or through a cave or something, and the tank in the back, right, it tends to hit something because you can't see above you, right, and you
Mm.
can't see behind. So um, cave divers started putting the tanks on the side, and then this sort of became a trend, and people realized they can be much more streamlined. So right now, everybody is kind of doing side mount diving. The only thing is, like, we have to also do a certification to do side mount diving. Probably it'll be a day certification or something.
And you can no longer do the backflip to get in, right? You'll have to do something else.
You'll have to probably do something else. Yeah, that's true. Hmm. Yeah. Mm, they with the side mount though, the hitching the tank on is much easier. So
Mm.
you could potentially do a black backflip and then hitch the tank on
Yeah.
water or something. So I think they might have some options there. Mm, what else? I think I'm almost out of time, or I'm way about time. So just want to leave you guys with this. There are lots of places nearby you can go diving. Murdeshwar, RV and I went last year. I usually go there once a year because if I'm not diving anywhere, it's kind of close. Pondicherry has some nice diving as well, and Temple Adventures is a really, really professional organization. Very good organization to go diving with. Andamans, Lakshadweep, you can go across to Sri Lanka, a lot of nice stuff, a lot of wrecks in Sri Lanka. Um, it's some really nice diving. Um, Andamans, Lakshadweep are probably a little more beautiful because they have like a lot of corals, right? So wherever there are islands, and the between islands, usually there's a channel, so the water, two large bodies of water and small body in between. So it sort of creates this effect where the water kind of flows faster, and that kind of brings nutrients, and so corals thrive, and so. Um, Wherever there are these islands, a lot of islands, you have like really good corals, especially that you'd see. Pretty much every Southeast Asian country has great diving, good clear waters, islands, so a lot of corals, a lot of marine life, colorful, they're all tropical. Um, and then the other places nearby is like you can dive in Dubai, especially there's this place called Musandam. It's actually in a it's actually in Oman. It's a part of Oman, but it's surrounded by UAE. It's kind of it's cut off from the rest of mainland Oman, and it's closer to Dubai. So if you go to Dubai, you can actually just cross over, and this place is gorgeous. It's got like these Norwegian fjords. So you've got these steep cliffs rising up out of the water, and then you kind of go out in a dove, and that's the dove story. So you basically jump out from 6 feet above and get in. Water's clear, warm, nice, a lot of good stuff. And a lot of people love going and swimming in Egypt. So there are all sorts of things that you'd see uh, in Egypt. So yeah, that's it. This is my last slide. So uh,
There's one thing I wanted to add, Raj, is like, so Raj and Rachna introduced Monimi and I to diving. They took us to Netrani, and I mean, it's hard for me to just sort of even describe the experience. It's nothing like you see on TV or in movies. It just blows your mind. And you just take a day out to go to any of these places. It costs maybe about 10,000, right, Raj, maximum?
Yeah, so I think, see, the diving typically is about it's for the Discover Scuba, it's about 4-5 thousand, right? And once you're certified, it costs anywhere between 2 to 3 thousand. I mean, anywhere between 1,500 to 3,000 per dive.
Correct. Yeah.
So yeah, pretty much the dive itself would cost you about 5,000, I think, five and a
Yeah.
half thousand for 2 dives, and then you know, uh, yeah, after that, whatever you spend on your travel, so you can do
Right.
as much of it
Travel
as
and, food, whatever, everything all inclusive. You're probably going to spend about 10 max. It's just an amazing experience, and there were so many people out there who were first time divers who didn't know how to swim, and they were completely assisted along. They had no trouble, So it's a great experience. I mean, I think it'll inspire enough people to go out and learn how to swim just to get into diving more.
yeah.
Uh, and these places are so close, right? They're not even that far. Pondicherry and uh, Netrani, it's very accessible, and I think a lot more of development now. So I'm definitely looking forward to another dive. So.
Yeah, I think so. Just Pondicherry is a little. Netrani is completely natural. It's got like its coral reefs and all that. It's really nice. But you've got like a really long boat ride out. Uh, Planet Scuba now, they are a Bangalore-based company. They now have a speedboat RV, so you
Oh,
can reach in about 20-25 minutes. They have this crazy ass speedboat now, right? I don't know if you remember when we went. Was it when the Coast Guard intercepted us in one of their
yeah,
those super duper machines? So
yeah,
they
yeah,
got a smaller version of that.
yeah. Okay.
Pretty much, go out at like 50 or 100 kilometers per hour, so
Yeah,
you can go out fast. But I think our thing was much more fun, right? So you have a lot more people. It takes an hour and a half.
yeah,
Kind of chat and you kind of eat some stuff on the way and blah blah blah. So just make sure you take some of your what do you call it, seasickness pills, because that's kind of a long
yeah.
boat ride. Uh, Pondicherry is, especially for the discover diving sites, are much closer. They're only, they're probably 20, 30 minutes. They have, and it's interesting, right? You go to different parts of the world, different parts diving, and you see different kinds of boats, all local styles. Some of them with like a catamaran style. The Pondicherry boats are like short, low boats, wide but very low. Like, water will be inside it all the time. The ones in Netrani are those little bigger type boats, right? Little deeper hull, so all sorts of different ones. Pondicherry is like the natural reefs are way out and they're only for deep divers. They're like super duper fast current, blah blah blah. So they're only for advanced divers. The discover diving and basic diving, open water divers, kind of go out to what some kind of environment that these guys have created. They kind of threw down some trees, they threw down some different kinds of stuff, and then things started to grow around them. And there are beautiful fish. So it's quite incredible because they didn't have anything natural in this site, and they just developed it over the last few years. Uh, yeah, it's pretty much you throw down a ship or something, sink it somewhere, and corals start to grow around it, and fish start to come, and in about 3 to 5 years. So they've
I'm,
kind of created an environment like that.
Hey Raj, I have a question.
That's right.
So, like off late, I've been reading stuff that the marine life is kind of getting hurt from all the stuff that's going around.
Right.
Have you noticed anything happen like that among all the dives that you've done?
Definitely. So I think, see, there are a couple of things that happen, right? So uh, one is sort of bleaching of corals, right? I'm not sure if it's because of the water quality or if it's because of water getting warmer. These corals are very sensitive to certain temperature patterns. So there are sites, like there was this site in Koh uh, in Thailand, where you know, the corals are like, it's full of corals. Okay, like you go and you can't even put your feet down because it's just corals all over, right? So, but they've all got bleached, right? They're starting to die, so they're not colorful anymore, right? Um, Really sad because it's like acres and acres of coral. You know, you can imagine how it was at one point in time. I believe things are getting bleached around Sri Lanka and all as well. But I'll have to say this, Netrani, right? Every year we go there, it's getting better and better, right? I think sometimes we give ourselves more credit for destroying or helping nature than we actually. A lot of times it's, you know, we obviously are contributing a lot. We've got, you know, things like people, I think initially, right? Um, People who went diving, they kind of, you know, bring back coral, they, you know, hit break stuff. Most divers, that's a part of the course, and you know, you're assessed based on like, you know, how you uh, sort of swim and how you behave underwater, right? That you don't, even if you touch coral, it gets hurt. So you don't touch any of the coral unless you know, if you need a foothold or handhold. I mean, there's current, you can't do anything. You just use a finger, and you know, so you're damaging as less of it as possible. Um, but yeah, pretty much like you're saying, there has been damage. Some of it is environmental. Um, the damage that was caused initially when humans started diving in numbers is, I think it's reduced now, right? And corals kind of are, you know, sort of. There are places where I've definitely seen, you know, coral that's kind of gone bad, that's bleached, and it's quite sad to see. But I think there isn't too much we can do because I think there are other places where coral has come to where they never existed. So, you know, we probably give ourselves more credit also at times of being capable of damaging things. Uh, Things like, you know, there's some sad things, right? People do shark finning. Uh, they, like in China and some of these places, they basically uh, hunt these sharks and then they pull them to the surface and then they cut off their fins because that's all they want, the shark fin soup, and they throw the animals back in water, right? The animal now cannot survive without its fin, right? I think there's a lot of, you know, I'd be more worried about like cruelty like that. You know, there's uh, overfishing. You know, sometimes fishermen know where divers are going because divers tend to go and find where fish is. And you know, we go and swim, and then suddenly you see these fishermen coming after, waiting around to, you know, so they're overfishing, things like that, right? I think are sort of some of the dangers. It's basically our greed that's the biggest danger.
Plus, sharks don't have those bladders that allow them to keep afloat, right? So they have to keep swimming. I
Yeah.
think I read that somewhere.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not entirely sure, but that sounds right. They have to, you know, they cannot be this thing. They have to keep swimming. But having said that, right, I found, I don't know, like a lot of times I've seen sharks. They're kind of inside these caves. They're just basically lying around. So,
Really?
you know, so I don't know really. They just, you know, you kind of go to the mouth of a cave and you're like shark, shark. So, you know, you kind of go and you try to take a photo or something. Yeah, say shark. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, nobody says danger, danger. You know, like I think this is current. I forget what's danger now, but or danger, right? We don't. Nobody says danger. We only say shark, and then everybody's going in that direction. So I think the danger is for the shark. The sharks must be having their own danger sign, like humans
Yeah.
coming.
Okay, cool.
All right, Chaz. Any other questions? All right, guys. I think it's been a long, long session. So I hope you enjoyed it. Took a little longer than I intended to, and I flipped through a few things faster. But you know, hey, you guys, we spent time on the sessions. I think you guys liked as well on the sections. So uh, you know, hopefully you enjoyed it.
Yeah, very, very interesting, Raj. I mean, I think it now comes down to maybe you'll take us on to a dive next.
Uh, okay, we can talk off air about that, Aditya, about taking. You know, you sort of the invites came in, but
Yeah, yeah.
following through on that. So, but definitely, I mean, I definitely look forward to, you know, time when all of us can go diving. There are a lot of nice places nearby, so
That'll be awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, that would be cool.
a lot of fun. All right. Cool, guys. Are we anything else?
No, great, Raj. Thanks, Raj, for putting it together. Great, very informative sessions.
Thanks, Raj. That was really nice.
Hey, all right. Thanks. Thanks.
Thanks, Raj.
Thanks.
Really nice.
Thanks. Catch you in a bit.
All right. Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.